Now we're going live on stream because now we actually have audio on the stream. Not that anybody was watching, but if they were just seeing two headshots just kind of doing nothing and not
Don't people watch people sleep? So
yeah, I don't think we're at that level of creepiness yet.
Oh, I thought we were gonna say interest and intrigue.
I am on my bed today.
Are you?
Totally set up, yeah. So hopefully it's not too obvious. All right.
No, you can't tell at all, actually.
Oh, excellent. Very good. I'm a little too... I need to elevate more, but anyway, I'm not going to worry about it for today.
Why? Because you're looking down?
I am looking down a little bit. I can slunch a little bit. Anyway.
Slunch?
Yeah, it's all good.
Slunch isn't a word.
I just dubbed it a word. Sounds
like something the Tharks would do. Slunch around.
They would slunch. We got some good Tharkian stuff this ep too. All right, so we've got your Audacity up.
Yeah, you're gonna have to keep me in line because I've done so much of the reading that I'm gonna get lost as where we are and what's happening.
Okay, so we're doing 14 to 18, which is basically real quick. 14, John fights Zad. 15, Sola tells us who her dad is. 16, they plan their escape and they get away. 17, costly recapture. They get captured and end up in Thark. And John slinks around and sees Talhagis, talking to Dejah. And then 18 is he gets away. Wait, what happens in 18?
He gets caught. He gets away, but then he gets captured by the Warhoonians.
The Warhoons. Right, the Warhoons pick him up. Because what happens between him getting... Because he... Oh, right, because that's right. They were all escaping once he rescued Dejah.
They didn't rendezvous at the right point. They didn't rendezvous.
He goes back.
Because he stole some thoats, or got his thoats. They didn't come. He goes back. He goes to find them. Right?
Right. Yep, and he goes back. That's when he sees Dejah there with Talhagis. He knocks him out, grabs Dejah and Sola. They skedaddle. Then... while they're escaping, the Warhoons show up. He sends Dejah and Sola off. He sits there and tries to snipe a couple of them and delay them, but he eventually gets overrun and captured by the Warhoons.
Right.
And then he wakes up. In 18, he wakes up and meets Barkova. Wait, Barkova? Is that right? Or whatever his name is.
Cove.
Wait, what is it?
Kocha? Wait.
Dakova. That's it. Dakova. And Dakova kills Barkomis and becomes Jedak very quickly.
Okay.
And then he gets thrown into the... And these guys are nasty. They wear heads and hands. And then he gets thrown in the dungeon, basically. Yep. Gets thrown in the dungeon, kills his first jailer. Something in the cell with him eats the body, and then he continues on. Okay. So, buddy, you need to not come in. You need to not come in, my son. Sorry. Stay downstairs. I love you. All right. So great trying to do this with kids. Right. Okay.
Yeah, mom has a baby, so we're baby opinion free for now.
Very nice. All right, so I'm starting my Audacity. I'm recording. Okay, I'm up on the Audacity. Are you ready to sync?
Yes.
Welcome to Classics You Slept Through. Welcome to Classics You Slept Through. This is Classics You Slept Through.
Welcome.
All right, so we are going to sync in 3, 2, 1. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Classics You Slept Through. This is the book podcast where we read and discuss classic books. I am your host, Kyle Davis, along with a girl who always refers to herself in third person, my sister, Meredith. How's it going today, Mer?
Meredith's doing just fine. Should be feeling good today.
So we have not talked in a while. We had a little Christmas break. We had some time off. New year, new pod. Actually, same pod, same book, but you know,
Same shitty stuff happening in the world, but it's a new day.
It's new stuff happening in the world. So that's gives some variety anyway for 21. But we, fortunately, don't have to worry too much about the problems of this world. We are worrying about the problems of Barsoom.
That's where we are. We're on Barsoom. We got Warhoons, we've got Tharks, we've got Jedaks, we've got Thoats. Woo!
We've got the whole thing. And so we're going to pick it up here. It's been a while since we've talked, so hopefully, listeners, you are keeping up with what we're doing. But basically, where we've left off at the end of our last reading, John and Dejah are still with the Tharks. They're making their way towards the city of Thark with the band of Tharks that they have, led by Lorcas Tommel and his number 2, Tars Tarkas. John's plotting escape, kind of chats with Tars Tarkas about, hey, can we be a little nicer to Dejah? I mean, she is a princess and all that. And, you know, he takes her chains off and says, you know, John, don't you try to escape, man. We're watching you. And so that's where we are. And at the end of 13, John and Dejah were kind of chatty, flirty, talking about stuff. And that's where we pick it up here. Being
in love. Or
indeed.
Almost. He loves her, but they haven't said it yet.
Oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't know her feelings. He's so confused. Such a mystery to him. So we pick it up here in chapter 14, A Duel to the Death. And they are still doing this really weird, naive, flirty thing where he's, oh, Dejah, do people kiss upon Barsoom? Yes, John, they kiss. Brothers, fathers, and lovers. And Dejah, do you have... Anyway, it goes on like that.
Do you have parents, brothers, and sisters? And a lover?
A lover? Oh. So yes, we're doing that whole thing, and you know, he kind of steps in it when she says, you know, you kiss the man who has fought and won for you, but Dejah, I've fought and oh goodness, she blushes red and stops talking to him, and he sort of demurs and, oh John Carter, could you ever love a woman who's hatched from an egg? He doesn't. Which I think that whole thing kind of gets lost. We kind of forget that, yeah, this lady came out of an egg, didn't she?
She did. Bizarre. And in a way, don't we all, though, sort of? Not out of an egg, but made from,
Start from, yeah.
But she literally, like, had to hatch. Does she have, like, a little hook? Yeah, I was just going to...
She doesn't have a beak, right?
They, like, eat their way out.
I mean, the Tharks have their tusks at least, right? So they have some manner of piercing the shell. But... Oh, Dejah, how did you get out of that egg? This is interesting.
I wonder if anybody ever asked Edgar Rice Burroughs. He's like, that's beside the point. They got out of the egg. That's what matters.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter how.
Exactly.
All right.
So they kind of go through this flirty thing, and he offends her, obviously. And... then we move on a little bit
from the melodrama. I was a fool. I was a fool in love. All right.
Do you want to talk about this right now? Kind of some quirks of how Burroughs is writing this.
Yeah.
Some things that I kind of stand out and you know continue to get examples in this chapter. Quirks. But he's very. Oh man, like John Carter is just the most like the testosterone is just dripping off of the page as I read the book. You know, he describes the hordes of women who, you know, he's never been in love before, but even though he's had many opportunities and, Just he's never felt it, but man, those women have been throwing themselves at him for years, and he's very modest about it.
Everything John Carter does takes one punch, one look, one kiss.
Yes.
Like, miraculously. If you have to write the word, miraculously, every time your character does something, I think maybe you need a little more lead in or lead up.
Well, his initials are JC. Just saying.
I almost literally went, oh, Jesus Christ.
John H. Carter. All right.
Does he have a middle initial?
I don't know. If it was H, that would be amazing.
That would be great.
Anyway. I also like that the way, I don't know if I like it, but the way Burroughs world builds throughout this, he does this very, very frequently, where he'll talk about something and he'll just go on a random tangent that makes zero relevance to what he's saying. For example, he says, the morning was clear and bright, like all Martian mornings. Well, except for those 6 weeks when the ice caps melt. But who cares? Who cares? It has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, Burroughs.
It's like that weird tiny detail makes it so much more believable. I mean, maybe it does.
He definitely knows a lot about Mars, which has as we discussed earlier, an average temperature of -81.
Every now and then, there was like a moment of really pretty writing. Like just, sometimes I think back to when we read The Awakening and how some of those passages just like took my breath away because they were just so well crafted and beautiful. Not so much is happening here in this book, but it is not completely devoid of a passage here and there, like talking about the Martian landscape or something like that. So I think Burroughs can write. Am I giving away? He can write well. He can write beautiful passages. That isn't just like miraculously he then punched him through the face and he died.
Right. So you mean your breath wasn't taken away when you were just realizing that John Carter and Dejah Thoris might be in love? That wasn't, no? Nothing, didn't do anything for you?
No. Especially, there's a line where he goes, so this is love. And all I could hear was Cinderella. So this is love. Oh. Ooh. And I was like, come on, Cinderella, let's get it going.
Well, at least, Cinderella has something in common with John Carter. I mean, she knew the prince for what, an evening?
It's true.
In the Disney movie. And actually, in the original Cinderella story, I think she goes to like 3 or 4 balls before the fateful run off and lose your slipper ball.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you read the original fairy tale, I think she does 2 or 3 balls.
And she meets him each time?
I believe so, yeah. And so there is a little bit of falling in love development, not I danced with you once and
you have a shoe fetish.
Exactly, yeah. But, I mean, John Carter has known Dejah for, let's say, 3 weeks. I think later on he reveals that he's been on Barsoom for a total of a month. And so,
that's long enough to fall in love.
You think so? 3 weeks? He didn't even speak her language in the beginning.
Love needs no words.
He has to ask her what kiss means. Oh, is that the word you mean? Oh.
But she touched his shoulder and it spoke to him in words that, what does he say? The touch of my arm upon her naked shoulder had spoken to me in words I would not mistake. See, they don't need language.
No,
they got body language.
Oh, man. She paid attention to me. She must like me. Anyway, so
Milady.
in his further, can we say that he doesn't foreshadow at all? Like his foreshadowing is. Do you call it foreshadowing when it's just completely? I'm trying to think of what a metaphor for a bad foreshadow would be. Like it's just completely black. Like it's totally dark. That's how much foreshadowing there is. He notices Sarkoja talking to Zad, a big hulking brute, and within a paragraph or two, oh, okay, Zad's insulting me and we have to fight.
Yep.
So Zad, walks up and slaps his throat. Like, oh goodness, you don't slap a man's throat. I don't know what that means on any planet.
Throat slapper.
Exactly. So, they have to He's gonna kill him.
Dude, can you imagine that? Some dude walks up to you and like smacks your dog in the face and is like, you're like, what?
We have to fight to the death now, obviously.
Yeah, my dog's blind. You slap him in the face. He didn't even see it coming.
He wouldn't even know who it is, though. He wouldn't care. But before we get to the fight, we have one last bit of foreshadowing because we have to introduce the Warhoons somehow. And so we go off and we find a Warhoonian incubator, and we smash them eggs. We kill all these Warhoon babies.
Poor Warhoon babies.
Yeah.
Warhoonies.
And another little world building he throws in that apparently eggs grow. The Warhoons they lay the eggs because they're little, and then they grow to a larger size to where the 5-foot baby comes out. Or whatever.
Does that happen in Alien? Or are they laid that size and then they break open?
Right, they're laid that size and they open.
Oh. So like a watermelon.
I mean, a watermelon grows. Yes,
yeah.
It's not an egg.
It's like egg shaped though. Have you never seen a watermelon hatch?
What? What would come out of a watermelon?
No. Little seed elf.
Is that how we get like? I don't know. Yeah. So
Squirrels are born.
Do eggs grow? Do you know? Do any eggs grow? Like where we have gotten this from?
The only thing I could think of is maybe like a very soft shelled egg might grow, like of one of those weird animals, like a monotreme, like a platypus or an echidna. Maybe their eggs grow.
Okay, so I looked this up. The only example I could find, obviously I'm not a, what are those people called to study animals?
Zoologist, a biologist.
There you go. I'm not a zoologist. But apparently, and this isn't exactly what Burroughs was talking about, like the eggs don't actually grow, but apparently frogs, when they first lay their eggs, they're itty bitty.
Oh.
And once they hit the water, they kind of get waterlogged and they sort of expand a little bit. They don't grow in the sense that Burroughs is talking about here, but within the first few minutes of being laid, when frog eggs come out, they look like little seeds, and then they do kind of expand and puff up a little
because they take on water.
They take on water, right?
Okay.
They're not actually growing.
Yeah, that would mean that if it grew, it would mean that the egg itself was alive in some way, and it's not, right? It's just a case.
Right, or it would be soft and therefore not serve the purpose of, like, a shell protects the embryo and what's inside it, And
so these are hard shell eggs is what I'm picturing on Mars.
Right, that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But they apparently grow when exposed to sunlight. Because remember, they said they kept them in the dark and they stay small, and I guess, the chieftain can put them in his pocket or something. Well, he doesn't wear clothes, so he can carry a bunch of them.
Where's he put them? What pocket? You carry the eggs today. No, I don't want to carry the eggs. Bend over, carry the eggs.
Wouldn't it make more sense just to have the women lay them in the incubator? I don't know.
But they lay way too many, right?
And they hide them for years until they pick the right ones.
Because it's like 5 years till they're even ready.
Right.
Or no, they lay one a year, one every 5 years. Anyway.
I don't know. Martian. What was it? See, I can't even think of words anymore.
Martian reproduction?
Reproductive cycle. Yeah. Well, anyway, they get back from smashing this incubator, and old Zad comes up, slaps a throat, and we got to fight. So they start fighting, and Zad's pretty good with a sword, so they're going at it. And John Carter keeps getting sunlight in his eyes. He keeps getting blinded, and he just happens to look over, and he sees Sarkoja's there flashing a mirror in his face. But old Sarkoja's kind of ham-fisted, though, because she's doing it literally next to Dejah and Sola. So Dejah knocks the mirror out of her hand, and Sarkoja, gets a knife, and she's about to stab her, and Sola jumps in between. And at the same time, I guess while John is watching this, because he's quite, he's battling to the death, but he's also watching what's happening up on the hillside pretty intently. You know,
A
we end the
great
chapter on a
peripheral
cliffhanger.
vision.
Exactly. Well, of course, everything's miraculous with him. We end on a cliffhanger. You know, is John dead because him and Zad clashed at the same time with their swords? And is Sola dead when she got stabbed with the knife? Well, we roll into chapter 15 and we immediately resolve any kind of cliffhanger conflict because no, John's alive and he's
Awake.
fine. And yep, he's awake. And nope, Sola, you know, her breastplate, it hit whatever metal she happened to be wearing.
And I was in pain, but this wound isn't dangerous. So
Right.
5 sentences, no worry, tension gone.
Exactly. Because, you know, Martian women, they can fix you up just fine. They got magical healing properties. So death has to take a back seat or something that he says. What a some kind of prose like that. Like a Martian woman's around. I do wonder though with this cliffhanger that gets immediately resolved if this was maybe a serialization point. Like if maybe one
good
maybe you
point.
had to wait a month to get to this next chapter.
One of my favorite, well, actually, I don't read this type of literature like ever, but
I don't think anyone does. Well, maybe they do. I don't know.
yeah, of course they do. He's the greatest, hands down, bar none author ever of all time, says Ray Bradbury. Anyway,
True.
My favorite sci-fi book it's got 2 titles, and it was also serialized in the 40s. But the title I read it under is The Star's My Destination. Have you read that?
Yeah, excellent book.
Yeah, that's a great book.
Really good
I
book,
think
yeah.
it was serialized, but I didn't notice things like this in it. But I could see your point. Like, tune in next week to see if he's dead, you know,
Right.
kind of deal. And then you pick up the next one. It's like, all right, and I'm better, and back into the action, which that makes sense.
All right, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
because you don't want to like waste what magazine space you have that month with a long,
Yeah.
oh man, with a long drawn out. You know, what's John doing? We want to get right back into it and say, hey, what's the action this month? You
Yeah.
know? Okay, so we get into chapter 15. John's okay. Dejah's pretty upset with him. She doesn't want to talk to him. She's crying. And, you know, Sola says, what have you done to her, John Carter, that she doesn't want to acknowledge you when you're around, but yet when you're dead, she mourns and weeps for you, or thinks you're dead. You know, you're a jerk, John Carter. It's just like, I'm a man. I don't understand women. Why could she be like this?
Drama at the football game Friday night. That's what it sounds like.
Exactly. Well, then we start moving out towards Thark, and Sola says, you know, John, I got a story to tell you. If you want to hear it, come by tonight, and I'll tell you. So he does. And then we get this long Sola soliloquy, if you will.
Haha.
Nice. And she tells him all about her upbringing. So apparently, she knew her mother, and her mother and father, and this is obviously secondhand, her mother told her, you know, that her and her father were in love, and that her father, you know, his dream in life is to kill Talhaggis and become Jeddak himself. Turns out that her mother was also betrayed by Sarkoja, so we keep this villainous streak. Yeah, Sarkoja figured out that she had raised a child, although Sarkoja did not know it was Sola, and though she suspects. And Talhaggis then, you know, tortured Sola's mother, and this, you know, further angers her father and angers her. To protect Sola, her mother told Sarkoja and Talhaggis that, no, I killed my daughter so that way you would never get your hands on her and you couldn't torture her. So basically, at the end of all this, Sola says, you know, nobody knows who I am. Nobody knows that I had a mother. You know, even my father doesn't know that I'm alive. Sarkoja doesn't know I'm alive, although she suspects that I am, you know, my mother's daughter, kind of thing. And then we have the shocking, I don't know, were you shocked when you read this? The shocking reveal that her father
her mother whispered his name to her.
So close that Sarkoja couldn't hear. Dun dun dun. It's Talhaggis.
No, it's not.
Yes.
You just ruined
it's
it. You just ruined it.
Wrong name. Well, anybody who's reading the book knows. All right, it's
Tars Tarkas. God, what a build-up and a letdown.
They all start with T. We need different starting letters for these names. Yes, it's Tars Tarkas. So were you shocked by that reveal? Or
so shocked.
Did you see it coming from chapters away?
I didn't see it coming from chapters away, but when she revealed that she knows her parents and blah, 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 and that Tars Tarkas, John, who's so discerning, could see that perhaps he had care in his eyes or whatever back in the whatever chapter it was when we were in the chambers before the young guy jumped up and was like, no, we have to kill him or whatever. And then he kills the young Tharkian and gets his stuff. Remember?
Right. Yep.
He was like, no, I felt like Tars Tarkas was moved and that there was something more to him than whatever. And then the young guy. So when she said that, I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Or when John is telling Tars Tarkas, it's because of the friendship I feel towards you. And he's like, friendship? There's no such thing, John Carter. So we have to be extra manly around the green men. So then we get to chapter 16. We plan escape, and we're continuing towards Thark, and we pass some... This is one of those details, one of those little bits. I don't know if this comes back to us or not. But Burroughs just throws in that they pass a bunch of walled enclosures, cultivated farms, and are there people here? Are the why did the Tharks not attack if there's something here to take? Because all we've been told is that these guys only take what they they don't make, they can only take.
Well, he says only once did I perceive a human being.
Right, and he sees somebody who gets up and runs away.
Just like sleeping on the side of the road.
Right. I mean, the Tharks don't go after him. And, I mean, we've been told, there are thousands of... And, I mean, we'll get to the numbers here in a little bit, but this is a huge convoy with hundreds of warriors in front and flankers on the sides. And how did they not see this guy? And then John Carter, who we know can, leap hundreds of feet in a single bound. Why did he not go after this guy? It's just sort of a throwaway. Yeah, and then I saw this guy and he got up and he ran. Okay, and we kept going.
Do you think it's a thing? There's communes on Earth where people take drugs and pass out and then they end up on Mars and then they kind of hang out and because he said he scaled the wall with an agility of a cat, of a scared cat. So I'm thinking he has the same abilities as John Carter to just leap.
Have you watched Soul yet?
Yes.
So right? So like that, right? The hippie dudes that are
yeah,
we kind of,
yeah.
And then we can join the astral plane. And
That's a good movie.
I quite enjoyed that.
Did your kids watch it?
Yeah, we all watched it.
Did they get it at all?
Probably not, but they enjoyed it. They thought it was funny. I'm sure they didn't get the deeper meaning of it. Come on.
It was I don't even think it's for kids. Vince loved the part where they poop the pizza out their butts, but that was pretty much it. Except the fact that Clank is on his way out and Vince knows it. And so I'm trying to explain to Vince what's going to happen to Clank. And I'm like, in Soul, the Great Beyond. I think that's what will happen to Clank. And he's like... Sure. He's like, and then they poop pizza out their butt. I'm like, yes, and now we're on to the more important aspects.
Exactly. No, anyway. Yeah, definitely. They saved their Pixar tears for the end, for sure.
Oh my God.
That one. But yeah, definitely more meaningful for adults, I think.
Yeah, it was great. We loved it. We watched it by ourselves after the kids went to bed.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
I haven't watched it again yet. I've only watched it the one time so far. But anyway, so then we finally kind of get to Thark, the city. And obviously in this society, they are naming themselves after the cities that they are sort of headquartered in. So the Tharks are based out of the city of Thark. The Warhoons are based out of the city of Warhoon and whatnot. And we kind of get initial organization here. So we are told that there's about 30,000 Tharks split up into 25 communities. So, 1,000-ish plus each community. Talhages is the Jeddak over all of these 25 communities. And 5 of these communities he keeps, I guess, at Thark as sort of like the home guard.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, in the city, maybe 5,000 or so green Martians is what we're saying. And then, Lorcas Tommel bringing in his crew adds about, another 1,000. And so then we see, much like the previous city we were in, Thark is a deserted city where they're kind of squatting in these buildings. And, Burroughs gives us a little critique. I'm be curious, maybe we can, in our wrap-up or whatever, talk about, what is he critiquing here? But talking about the fact that, these Tharks, they don't see the beauty in these buildings or what they're for. They only look at the size of the building and the interior square footage as that is what they value. And so they're just in, like, City Hall, and they call that, like, the best building in town. And so that's where Talhages has his headquarters, because it's the biggest inside.
Well, they are big creatures. That makes sense to me.
They are.
And there's a lot of them.
Right, and they don't have furniture. They just sleep on furs and silks, and, they don't make anything. They don't need the beauty.
And I'm picturing, how are you picturing it? I'm picturing it like an Old West setup, actually. Like, just like a main street and lots of brick buildings, and then say the building that Talhages has occupied is the big one at the front, and then it sprawls out from there a bit. But I'm picturing a very
linear,
yeah, and very Old West or Southern town or something like that. What were you picturing?
Well, I was picturing like a city. I mean, it's like City Hall. You got the big building with the rotunda in it or whatever, and that's where Haggis is kind of hanging out. And then you've got buildings kind of around a square.
Yeah.
And that's where Burroughs
are you picturing
tells
like Philadelphia? Or are you picturing like metal
city.
buildings?
Sure. Well, probably like marble or stone or something.
So like more like DC buildings?
Yeah, like DC, like the Capitol building. Like I'm picturing these guys are hanging out in the Capitol. Like there's some kind of anyway. We won't go there. I'll just leave it alone. But yeah, so I'm picturing that they're in, say, the Capitol building or something, but with like no furniture and whatnot, and then sort of the buildings around. Burroughs tells us that the top Jeds in the society get the next couple biggest buildings near Talhages, and then everybody else sort of spreads out and finds their own within the town. We also get the tidbit that Lorcas Tommel, who is in charge of John's group, that he is the number 2 guy. He is Talhages's number 1 Jed, because he gets the next biggest building right next to Talhages's place. But John has to go find his own place. I loved this little bit of, further masculinity. Like the masculinity in the book just, it just seeps out of it. He says,
like an elephant in musk. It's just like...
Yes, exactly. You smell it from miles away. So John Carter tells us, he says, when I finally put my house in order, or rather seen that it had been done. So I love how he explicitly tells us, yes, he just explicitly tells us, I didn't do any work myself, but, I made sure the women got it all set up nice.
I'm surprised there's not a line where it was like, and I would have done it myself, except, it was against custom, and women were much better at it, and blah, blah, blah.
Or I would have done better, but I thought I would give them something to do. Anyway, so then I was confused about this. Then Woola reappears and is happy to see John. I don't remember ever losing Woola. Did he ever say it? That Woola left?
I mean, did Woola get put when I read that, I was like, oh, Woola must have been put in like
Okay.
the pack where they carry those creatures, or the like, I don't know. If you picture like an
So
old
you were
school,
also confused by that. You also were like, oh, wait, Woola was gone?
and she was there first. And she's like, I'm here.
Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And he does this again, like in a chapter or two, I think, where all of a sudden Woola, and he's like, oh, it's Woola. And I'm like, when did you ever say that Woola was not... Like, I'm just picturing Woola by your side constantly.
Yeah.
Because that's how you've described him.
Nope. I think Burroughs was like, oh, shit, I forgot to write about Woola. I better stick her in there.
Exactly. All right, so then we get to... Finally, we get some interaction with Dejah, and she is just like, what's up, Dotar Sojak? Like, he's not even using John's name anymore. Because as an earlier throwaway, we learned that whenever you kill a Jed, you get to take his name. So John Carter legitimately can be called Dotar Sojak.
That'd be so weird. Can you imagine if someone murdered me and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, Meredith Davis. And it's like some junkie who broke into my house and we just call him my name now.
And well, if you weren't his first kill, you'd be like, hi, Jane Meredith. Yeah, just whatever. But, she calls him this, and this is, I wanted to point this out. Like, the previous chapter, Burroughs did one of those throwaway, like, oh, and, a lot of people, you can call me Dotar Sojak too, and a lot of people had been. Like, he just tells us that people have been calling him Dotar Sojak, but nobody actually has to this point. And you're like, oh, come on, man. I think I don't want to say better, but maybe a better writer would have naturally worked that in and would have had, like, hail Dotar Sojak. And John Carter could have said, why do you call me Dotar Sojak? Oh, because you have killed Dotar and you have killed Sojak, so you are now known as Dotar Sojak. As opposed
Well done. Yes.
Exactly, right? Like, I think you could have written it in a more natural way as opposed to, oh, and by the way, people call me Dotar Sojak too. They've been doing that for a while because I killed people because Martian custom you. And it's just like, come on, man. But
well, though, this is a journal, right?
True.
This is John Carter's journal. Although it's not like he doesn't do dialogue and scenes exactly like that. And then I was walking down and this event happened, like you just described it.
It gets us back to the Dracula conundrum. Right? In the beginning, the doc was just putting like the bulletized notes, and then later, his diary became full-on conversations and descriptions of action.
I wonder how much those little 2-minute things cost. How many was he buying, and when was he going out to buy them in the midst of the... He must have had a closet full, because I know how long it took me to read it.
We should have researched. Yeah, we should have researched the cost of those things. That would have been interesting. All right, so then we get, here's your romantic prose again about where's your heart, John Carter. I wish I knew your heart. Well, just look at your feet, Dejah Thoris, because my heart has been lying there on the ground. But you know what? That definitely melts her heart. She's like, what? Oh, John Carter, my prince, my warrior.
I love you. My prince, my warrior. Oh.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, now they start planning an escape. She's like, all right, well, you know what? Now I'm in. If you're that devoted to me, let's get out of here. And they say, and the dialogue when they invite Sola, they say, Sola, you should come with. It was really like they were gonna go to the Poconos for the weekend. They're like, oh, hey, you should come with us, Sola. Yeah, Sola, come with us. It'll be great. Like, you're
gonna cook though, right?
Yeah. Because John doesn't do anything, and I'm a princess, and
The Airbnb rules said that we had to clean up before we left. So could you do that too? To run the dishwasher and
someone needs to arrange the silks. So anyway, they figure out how they're gonna do this. They're gonna go rendezvous. John's gonna go get his thoats. So he does that. He's this long drawn out sequence where he sneaks around, gets his thoats, is sneaking around in the dark, goes out to the rendezvous. He's there for like an hour and nobody shows up.
Can we also talk about though how she takes a diamond from her hair and scratches a map into the marble floor, and he is supposed to remember that?
It was the first map of Barsoom he had ever seen. He's been there for a month and he's never been like, what's this world look like? How's this thing laid out?
I've always had this strange capacity to remember exactly what I've seen in every little detail. I feel like it would be exactly the explanation.
Okay, so I'm going to bring in a little military history here because I actually find that to be a legit thing.
What's a legit thing? His photographic memory?
Yes. Because,
should he have one?
Yes, because, I mean, remember, he was a captain in the Civil War. And in those days, you didn't have, nicely produced maps like we do nowadays, right? And obviously they didn't have GPS and phones and things. So a thing that military officers had to know how to do was sketch. And a lot of these guys were actually quite accomplished. What we would think of as like pretty good artists, because they would have to make terrain sketches and to be able to discuss amongst themselves battle plans and whatnot. And so they would draw, the terrain, and they were pretty good at it. So I actually think they probably, as a military skill, he probably was pretty good at looking at a map, quickly memorizing it, and knowing, hey, here's where I need to go.
Okay. So, fair enough. Although not to his credit, drawing a map in the Civil War of, say, the Antietam battlefield area.
Familiar territory.
Right. As opposed to the barren wasteland of Mars.
Yes. I'll give him that. He's like, oh, so obviously it's, yeah. I mean,
although there might not be that many landmarks. So it's like, hey, there's be a wall here and a wall here. You go straight.
Yeah, true.
Then you'll see another wall. So maybe, I don't know. But fine.
Okay. So he's out there. He's waiting. But then he hears some guys pass, and he just catches some snippets of conversation, figures out that they know he's gone. They're looking for him. So he's like,
always listening at the right place at the right time. Always.
He is. Well, he's got good hearing. He's Superman.
It's like how the evil villain divulges every little detail of the plan, and they're like, haha, I was recording it, and you just said the whole thing from start to finish.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's exactly
John's wearing a wire. So he goes back, he goes to Dejah's quarters, but fortunately before he busts in, he hears something. He's like, oh, there's somebody in there, and figures out that they are waiting for him, and he also gleans that Dejah's been captured, and they're taking her to Talhagis. And he also, fortunately, like you said, the bad guys also say, oh, Sarkoja did good work in telling us this. So they reveal their source of information, and he knows, all right, Sarkoja did this. I'm going to have to go after her now. And that brings us to the end of 16.
I commend your carcass to the cold bosom of Is.
So then we get to chapter 17.
A costly recapture.
So this is where John is sneaking through the town. He figures out where Dejah is, and she is with Talhagis, and this is where he starts threatening her, and he lays out everything. He's going to give her 10 days of torture, and it's going to haunt the nightmares of the children of Helium for generations when they hear about the torture that I've inflicted upon you. And then we get probably the skeeviest line up to this point.
Oh, I hated reading it. I hated it. I hated it.
Before that, you will be Talhagis's for an hour.
No, he said, no, tomorrow the torture will commence. Tonight, thou art Talhagis's. Come. And he's like,
But he's only going to do it for an hour. Like, Talhagis got no stamina, man. I'm kind of.
How do you know it was an hour?
It said an hour.
Before the torture used to be mine for 1 short hour. Oh, yeah.
So at least Haggis, he's like, you know what? I know how far I last. I'm one and done. So we're just gonna finish this off, Dejah.
Enough of this like all night long thing.
Right. Exactly.
That's not
nobody actually does that.
That only happens in R&B songs.
Right. Exactly. Or if you're Sting.
If you're Sting.
So Talhagis dismisses all his Jeds, but John looks down and sees Tars Tarkas kind of lingering, and he's go, oh, if only I could tell him. I'm sure he would kill Talhageus on the spot. But Jon, right before Tal comes down to get Dejah, and it's like, you know what, I'm gonna do something. He jumps down, and this is one point where I just kind of started to scratch my head, and I said, maybe Burroughs isn't that good at writing action.
Why? Because he's like, I jumped down and I... Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, because he says, but scarcely had he touched her, I leaped between him. He says, my sword, sharp and gleaming, was in my right hand. Okay, so he's got his sword in his right hand. And he says, I raised my arm to strike, but I thought of Tars Tarkas, and with all my rage and hatred, I couldn't, he thinks of Tars as a friend. I couldn't rob him of killing Talhageus. So instead, I swung my good right fist full upon the point of his jaw. So he's punching him with the sword in his
just sword
hand?
Punched him?
Like, exactly. Like, I was like, man, did you not forget? Like 3 sentences earlier, you said you could have said I swung my left hand, or I dropped my sword and uppercutted him, or I don't know.
Maybe he had a word count limit.
So he just stuck with the right hand.
Because he's got a short...
men are right-handed, so I have to punch him with the right hand.
Well, he's a short sword at least. Because at first I was imagining like a long sword, but then you turn to punch someone with your sword. Hit yourself in the face with your own sword.
Well,
but
I
it's a
also
short
want to
sword.
bring up... Yeah, I also want to bring up, though, this is a short sword for a 15-foot-tall green Martian man. So a short sword, that's going to be like...
Short.
The sword's got to be as tall as Jon, or like close... I mean, it's probably a long sword. It's a big weapon for a human.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know. Otherwise it would be a dagger. Like a dagger for a Martian would be the right size for a short sword for you. I don't know.
I would think maybe just a knife.
We're clearly thinking more into this than Edgar Rice Burroughs was.
Yes. Sometimes I think burroughs just sort of dashed this off, and he's like, man, I don't even care. Like, what am I writing? Do you want? Have I? Talk about that later. But so then he grabs Dejah. They get out, speeding out. Another skeevy moment that they're escaping, but he couldn't be other than joyful with Dejah Thoris's warm body pressed close to mine. I was like, oh, come on, man. Anyway.
And she's the last of their line. So
yeah, she mentions that. I wonder if we're going to get into that, or if they're going to bring that up again.
So she lays eggs.
Fertile? She must lay eggs.
She lays eggs, which after having 2 children, that might be easier.
Like, does she have a different opening?
I don't know. Has Jon thought about this?
I don't think he has.
He's seen her totally naked because she doesn't wear clothes.
No.
He didn't note any differences. Maybe it has teeth. I don't know.
Ooh.
Look out, Jon.
So they somehow they picked up Sola. I don't even know.
She's just there like Woola. Like,
I guess she just must be. She just shows up, and anyway, so we get Sola out of there as well. They escape. We get up into the hills, and suddenly we see another formation of Martians. They're passing, and the last guy who, again, tidbit we throw in here. Oh, and he was probably a chieftain because, by the way, the chieftain in certain Martian formations brings up the rear. So anyway, he picks up his, doesn't even matter because Jon kills him 3 seconds later, but I guess he's now a Warhoonian chieftain. Who knows? He's earned his medal, right? So the dude picks up Looking Glass, sees Jon. They start going after him. Jon says, I've got 100 bullets in my gun, got another 100 in my backpack. Sola and Dejah, you guys get out of here. Not before we get the skeevy line of, Dejah Thoris. I will die here with the man I love. And he's like, oh, she said she loves me. I know for sure now. Oh, get out of here. And he throws her up there with Sola and gets him out of there anyway. So he's sitting there making the brave stand, shooting down some of these guys. But, he says there's like 1,000 of them. And I'm just like, Jon, man, I don't No, like you got 200 bullets, dude. I don't know what you were thinking.
He could just jump away. He
Maybe
also
this is-
thinks.
Maybe this is why the South lost the Civil War, right? If this is John Carter's tactical plan, me versus 1,000 dudes, and I got 200 bullets, I'm good.
That sounds like a Southern mentality to me. No offense.
Yeah, I don't understand. John Carter is like super strong. Can't he just like grab Dejah around the waist and grab Sola and just start jumping and running? Like,
Oh, go stick out of there, man.
exactly. or at least as they get close, couldn't he like bound away? Anyway, he gets captured, and they kind of swarm upon him. Oh, he does run away. I'm sorry, he does run away, and then he trips. He
On a piece of
stubs his
quartz.
toe. A piece of quartz. John, man, come on. Like, plan your leaps, man. Look where you're going. Anyway, he falls over. He gets overwhelmed. They knock him out. They don't kill him, interestingly enough. These bloodthirsty dudes that kill on sight, cut off hands and heads, and but they don't kill John. They just chain him up.
He's lost consciousness a lot so far.
He has, which
He must
again,
have some
I
terrible
wonder,
concussions.
are these unconscious points like how he just ends each serialized portion? Like, oh,
Could
John's
be.
unconscious again. I guess I gotta wait till next month. Yeah.
It's like, speaking of Pixar, like in Inside Out, when she goes to sleep, the train of thought stops and everybody just kind of has to wait till she wakes up
Right.
again.
They're just kind of hanging out. Exactly. Not very efficient. Which we can critique Pixar logic, but your thoughts are still going when you're asleep. Like your brain's
Yeah,
still
but it was
operates.
that was taken care of by the dream escapes. Like she's still dreaming.
Yeah. Okay.
She doesn't have an active train of thought.
I suppose not.
Maybe it's an idle train of thought. Somewhere deep in the subconscious.
You just kind of inch along.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, and that takes us to our last chapter for this episode, chapter 18, Chained in Warhoon, where again we see an example of the Martian women's prowess in medicalness because
Medicalness. Did you just say medicalness?
well, their medical prowess, their skill at medicine.
And make ouchies go bye-bye.
A real man would just take his scars and will himself back to life.
Oh my God. Dude, in the book that I was reading a while ago, All the Pretty Horses, the guy gets shot and it goes clean through. So he sticks the barrel of his gun in the fire, heats it up, and then shoves the heated barrel into his arm to cauterize it. It was so brutal. It was so brutal. I don't even know if that would work. But
If
it hurt to
only
read it.
Burroughs had thought of that. Wow.
Right? Can you make a fire on Mars? I guess you can because they technically are breathing oxygen. So where there's oxygen, there could be fire.
Yes, we will get into it. They are breathing oxygen. There is atmosphere on Mars. But there's no like trees. I mean, well, no, we have mentioned
Those weird plants,
trees.
like milk plants that they drink,
Right.
right?
Sometimes I have a memory of him mentioning trees at one point, but sometimes he's just like, okay, at some point we have to talk about the fact that he says there's no dust on Mars. Like, dude, what are you talking about? There's no dust on Mars. You've described rocks, you've described plants, you've described animals. Like, what do you think dust is, man?
Yeah. Nobody sheds skin or hair
Right.
or fur or.
These rocks never get broken apart.
Is there no wind?
I guess
There would have to be
not.
like no friction to be no dust. He's
something.
A man of science, he is not. This is why it's science fiction.
Definitely not. All right, so then we get to these. He's been captured by the Warhoons. They kind of patch him up, and he meets his first guy here, Dak Kova.
Mm-hmm.
He's described as having, hands hanging around his neck and skulls, which does that work? Can you hang a hand, a dead hand? Because aren't the
For a
bones of your-
while, I guess.
Right, because once the ligaments
Didn't so like
deteriorate, wouldn't the fingers fall off and you just have like
I don't remember all the
main
details,
hand?
but didn't the U.S. government take Che Guevara's hands as like trophies? They like mailed them to somebody, or
What?
yeah, you should Google that.
What?
when Che Guevara was finally killed, they cut off his hands, and they like I gotta look it up now. They I don't know if they mailed them to someone in the government or they were like trophies. Che Guevara hands.
I mean, I know General Sedgwick from the Battle of Gettysburg. He lost his leg, and he used to go visit it for years. It was in a box.
All right. So he was executed in Bolivia, and his hands were severed for the purposes of identification. They write his name on his hands. Che's hands.
I guess they had his fingerprints from somewhere. And cutting his hands off, how does that identify him? That just identifies the hands.
The fingerprints were taken. The hands and his body disappeared after the fingerprints were taken. In 1997, the body was found under a landing strip in Bolivia.
What?
But his hands were not in the grave, so they're not sure what became of them. Although some accounts indicate they were sent to Cuba by Antonio Arguelles. And there's a film that attempts to answer this question called The Hands of Che Guevara.
Okay, so if you cut his hands off for identification, how does that identify the body? If the hands are no longer with the body, could you not find some other handless body and just be like, oh yeah, they came from that body?
We need to take his fingerprints, so I'm not carrying his whole body. We'll just cut his hands off.
Just cut his hands off.
What do I do with him?
No sense.
Make a necklace out of him. Okay, so I was wrong. It wasn't like they were sent to someone in the U.S. But
okay,
still.
All right. Still, it's a little weird.
Anyway.
All right, so Dakova takes John to Bar Comus, a young Jedak, but John immediately, he's been here for a whole month, he immediately intuits that Dakova is rude and intentionally, not honoring his Jedak. And then probably my favorite line in the whole book that we've gotten so far: he will die as Bar Comus, your Jedak, sees fit, if at all. So, I love that. Like, who talks like that?
Tharks.
Apparently so.
If at all, by the dead hands at my throat, but he shall die, Bar Comus. What is that? By the dead hands at my throat? Like, what does that even mean?
Well, because he's wearing hands.
I know, but
around his throat. He's swearing by his prowess as a warrior.
Oh, okay. We just slap him to death by dead hand with dead hands. I take that sentence literally. No maudlin weakness on your part shall save him.
Yes. So anyway, very quickly, Dakova goes and kills Bar Comus and becomes Jedak of the Warhoons.
That was shocking to me. That happened very fast.
It did. It very much reminds me of Star Trek Klingons, at least the movie versions, where literally every position on the ship, if you want to be the captain, you just challenge the captain to a fight and kill him. And as a kid watching Star Trek, I was always like, this makes no military... how inefficient is this?
That's what you thought as a child? You were like, this is so inefficient.
This would not work. You can't keep discipline on the ship. How does the ship function if you're always like, oh, I want that guy's job, I'm going to kill him? The crew would be reduced in a week. No wonder the Klingons never beat the Federation. Come on. Anyway.
So inefficient. I can just see you 10 years old, so inefficient.
Unrealistic. So immediately, like Che Guevara, they immediately cut off his hands and his head, and Dakova was going to start wearing them, which he's wearing the heads of the people he's killed around his neck, right? He's not killing Smurfs.
I know.
He's killing people his own size. So he's got full heads around his the same size as his head.
It seems like that would be a hindrance to your fighting agility.
I mean, your neck would either be sore all the time, or you would just be jacked. Your neck's like a tree trunk, man. You're carrying these heads.
Yeah. Did you ever see the lead singer to Cannibal Corpse?
He's got a large neck. No.
So, from all the windmills. Just like this big, his name's George, aka Corpse Grinder, but his neck is so big. It's
got a big
huge.
neck.
Maybe he should wear heads.
I see. I have the opposite problem. I have a tiny neck.
You do have a little pea head and a little pea neck.
Sadly. So anyway, he's thrown into the jail, and it's dark. He kind of starts to go. He even says, I started to go crazy down there. I don't know what's going on. And he keeps seeing these eyes, and so his jailer brings him food a couple times a day. And so one day he finally, gets him and he kills him, because he wants to get the key off his neck. And, John Carter might not be the smartest guy in the world. Instead of just grabbing the keys, he kills the guy and then sits there for a minute, and then the things in the dark drag away the body, and he's like, oh crap, I forgot to get the keys. And so he's right back in the same predicament, except that he goes without food for a few days until they figure it out, and a new jailer is assigned to bring him food.
I love that he is laughing and chattering like an idiot I was fast becoming. And he's so can't speak. He's just totally out of his mind. He touches the keys and he's like, and I was back. And I'm back.
That's what I'm here for. I got to get out of here.
That's how quickly his sound mind just returned.
Well, how quickly did it deteriorate? I mean, it's not like he was in there for years.
I know, right?
I mean,
was it? It was a 3-day march. How long was he there?
Not long. I mean, imagine Shawshank would have been a 15-minute movie, Andy was thrown into jail, and then he became a chittering idiot. The end. Thanks, Red. Appreciate that, buddy. Yeah, I mean,
Oh, yeah. It doesn't even say how long he was there.
I can't imagine it was very long. He's only been on the planet for a month in total, so it couldn't have been more than a few days, unless it's, you know what I mean?
And he's not in solitary.
Yeah, 3 days, and immediately I was cast into the dungeon. Food. He does say, I do not know whether I lay there days or weeks or months. It's like, you didn't, John? You didn't, mark how many tired periods you had? I don't know if it was 2 days or 6 months, man. Really? You couldn't tell the difference?
I mean, maybe he's real sleepy. Sometimes in my mom's sleep deprivation, I wake up and I'm like, what year is it? Oh my God.
He could have been counting how many times he ate. Either that or he just very quickly was like, well, I'm in jail on Mars now, whatever. I guess I'll just, he doesn't even...
Yeah, it seems very out of character. You would think he was like, and so I counted each time and scratched on the wall till the moments that I could see my beautiful princess again and get out of here. He's very pragmatic like that sometimes, making these plans and these escapes, and he ends up in the dungeon and it just, nothing.
Right. And we've already established he's got superhuman strength, and dude, you couldn't try to bust the wall down or
yeah, you couldn't run and jump kick the wall. You got this major jumping ability.
Right. I don't know. It was just very strange. He's just yep, I'm just in here now. Oh well.
Well, that's where we leave him with the six eyes.
It is. That is where we leave him. And so we are going to pick that up in the jail for next time. So next week or next episode, which will come out tomorrow, we will be reading chapters 19 through 23 or 24. What did we read through?
I don't know. I read it a while ago. I've got it right here, though. Reading assignments. Oh, you deleted all the old ones. So I don't know.
You don't know what it is. All right, so next time we're going to be reading through chapter
23.
23, yes, because I pick up at 24. All right, yep. So we'll be reading 19 to 23 tomorrow and discussing it next week. And so we'll find out John Carter among the Warhoons. And we're close to the end. We've got 2 more reading assignments left. We've got 2 more weeks of John Carter, so we're going to quickly get to the resolution of this tale on Mars and Barsoom.
I have a question. Where's Woola? Right?
Apparently, you're right. He
just leaves Woola behind, and then Woola just
shows up again.
It could have been a really useful character. Isn't Woola supposed to never let him out of his sight?
He must have sent Woola off to protect Sola and Dejah when he was holding off the Warhoons, and then he ran off.
Did Woola go with them?
I didn't explicitly say, but he must have. Either that, I mean, we've read ahead, so we do know, but what happens to Ula? But I suppose the Warhoons could have killed him. I don't know. Anyway, so that's it for this week. We are... Oh, I didn't mention to podcast folk. Mare, did you know that we have our own Twitch channel now?
I did know.
You did.
Because you told me.
Because I told you. So if you enjoy these discussions, but you're thinking, something's missing, I need to be looking at these weird people while they talk about weird books, guess what? You can now. You can watch us on our Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/cystpod. And
I didn't know that. I'm going to write our own address down.
Yeah, you have to write that down. So that is our pod. We will, follow us on Twitter so you can get announcements on when we're going live. We'll have archived episodes up there once I get around to actually doing them proper. But you can see past streams on our channel. And we're going to hopefully plan to do some fun things. Like after this is done, we'll do some movie watch parties, perhaps. Because we do have a John Carter movie that we can watch once it's all said and done.
Hey,
so, yay.
Look, it's us streaming.
It is us streaming. You can watch us live.
That's cray-cray. Isn't
it?
Look. Oh my gosh.
It adds so much to our voices.
Look, so it's us streaming, watching us streaming, watching us streaming.
It's infinite. It's CYST pod all the way down.
That's amazing.
So, like I said, follow us on Twitter. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and the Facebook at CYST pod. But you know who's not on Facebook? The President of the United States. Okay, sorry, just had to throw that in there.
You know who's not on Twitter?
Well, he's back. He's got a little suspension, but he's not on Facebook. But we are at CYST pod. You can also send us an email, cystpod@gmail.com. And as I mentioned, now we're on Twitch. So look for that and look for us to go live. Follow us on Twitch for notifications on when we are streaming. And we'll plan to do some fun stuff and keep this thing going.
Yeah, you're going to wait for those notifications. It's not like we're going to have an even schedule. It's not going to be like every Thursday.
Eventually we
should do that. We should do that.
Eventually we shall. We will. We'll figure this thing out as we get better at doing these extra fun things. But until next time, keep reading and please be nice to your teachers. They are doing their best while they're doing these Zoom classes and back in class session and whatnot. Pretty soon things will be back to normal. Inshallah.
Peace.
So that's it. We'll see you. All right, I have stopped my recording and I'm going to hit save. And I have hit save.
File. Save. Project. Save as. Episode 49, right?
Very good. Yes, this was 49. All right, well, I want to thank... let's see, I don't know if we have any viewers.
Nah.
Probably not. But if we did, then I want to thank the viewers that we had.
This was a good episode, so you're welcome.
Hanging out. It was pretty good. I was prepared. That's why I actually did a little bit of prep work for it. And we have our chapters already recorded, so we'll actually get those out on time this week. And then we'll be rolling. Cool. All right. Anything else we need to discuss before we get off this thing?
I don't think so. When we're doing the next thing when? When do we say?
So this one will release Tuesday, and then our next chapters will release Wednesday. So once you get those edited together, just shoot me a note and I'll put those up. And then we said we're gonna record discussion Friday, right? That's what you said. You want to try to do Fridays?
Yeah. Okay.
Unless you want to do it beforehand, we already have our chapters read.
Yeah.
Then we can just do a Friday, and that gives us until Friday to read the next set of chapters.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay. Sweet.
Cool. All right. I'll see you later. Bye.